Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his face as he looked at the computer screen. The numbers did not make sense. Deep under the ground, something was giving off massive amounts of energy. He had been working as a mining engineer on New Haven Colony for 3 years, and he had never seen readings like this. "Lisa, you need to see this." Jake called to his friend who was checking security reports at the next desk. Lisa Carter walked over and looked at the screen. She was the head of security for the colony, and her job was to keep all 3,000 people safe. The energy readings made her nervous. "How deep is this?" she asked. "About 2 miles down. In the old cave system we've never explored," Jake said. "The computer says there's enough energy down there to power the whole colony for a year." Lisa frowned. "Or enough to blow us all up." Dr. Ben Rodriguez entered the control room carrying a cup of coffee. He was the colony's science expert who studied alien life. At 42 years old, he had seen many strange things on different planets, but nothing like what the computer was showing. "What's got you two looking so worried?" Ben asked. Jake pointed at the screen. "These energy readings are coming from the deep caves. We need to investigate." Ben studied the numbers. His face went pale. "This is not normal. The energy pattern looks almost alive." Amy Walsh looked up from her communication station. She was responsible for all messages between the colony and Earth. "Should I report this to headquarters?" "Not yet," Lisa said. "We don't know what we're dealing with. Let's check it out first." Jake had always loved exploring caves. Even as a child, he would spend hours underground with his flashlight, looking for interesting rocks and formations. His grandfather had given him an old flashlight that used a simple bulb instead of the modern LED lights everyone used now. Jake kept it in his equipment bag as a memory of the old man. "I'll take a team down tomorrow," Jake said. "We'll use the mining tunnels to get close, then explore the cave system." "I'm coming with you," Ben said. "If there's something alive down there, I need to see it." Lisa shook her head. "Too dangerous. If something goes wrong, we can't lose our best scientist." "And we can't lose our best engineer either," Ben replied. "But this discovery could change everything we know about this planet." The next morning, Jake prepared his equipment. He packed his plasma cutting tools, safety gear, and communication devices. At the last moment, he grabbed his grandfather's old flashlight and put it in his bag. He did not know why, but something told him to bring it. Ben joined the team with his scientific equipment. Lisa wanted to send security guards, but Jake convinced her that a small team would be safer. Along with Jake and Ben, 2 other miners volunteered to help: Rick Torres and Sam Lee. The 4 men took the elevator deep into the mining complex. The ride down took 20 minutes. When they reached the bottom level, Jake led them through a series of tunnels he had mapped years ago. The air grew colder as they walked deeper underground. "The energy readings are getting stronger," Ben said, looking at his scanner. "Whatever it is, we're getting close." After an hour of walking, they reached a wall of rock that blocked their path. Jake had never seen this wall before. It looked different from the natural cave formation around it. The rock was perfectly smooth and black as night. "This wasn't here last time I explored this area," Jake said. "Someone or something built this wall." Rick set up the plasma cutter. "Should I cut through it?" Jake looked at Ben, who nodded. "Do it, but be careful." The plasma cutter made quick work of the strange rock. As the wall cracked open, cold air rushed out. The smell was unlike anything they had ever experienced. It smelled like metal and electricity and something else they could not name. Behind the wall was a chamber carved from solid rock. The walls were covered with symbols that glowed with a faint blue light. In the center of the chamber was a large crystal that pulsed with energy. "Incredible," Ben whispered. "This chamber is thousands of years old, maybe older. Jake stepped into the chamber first. His boots echoed on the smooth floor. The crystal was beautiful, but also frightening. It seemed to be watching them. The energy. Readings are off the scale, Ben said, following Jake into the chamber. This crystal contains more power than our entire fusion reactor. Sam and Rick entered behind them, both men looking nervous. The symbols on the walls seemed to move in the corner of their eyes, but when they looked directly at them, the symbols were still. That's when Jake made his mistake. He reached out to touch the crystal. "Don't!" Ben shouted, but it was too late. The moment Jake's glove touched the crystal surface, everything changed. The crystal flared with blinding light. The symbols on the walls began to glow brighter. A deep humming sound filled the chamber, growing louder and louder until the men had to cover their ears. Then the crystal cracked. A thin line appeared down the middle, and black smoke poured out. But this was not normal smoke. It moved with purpose, swirling around the chamber like it was alive. The temperature dropped 20 degrees in seconds. "We need to leave now," Ben said, backing toward the entrance. But the smoke was faster. It surrounded them, cutting off their escape. The black smoke began to take shape, forming into something that looked almost human, but wrong in every way possible. It stood 12 feet tall with arms too long and fingers that ended in claws. Its eyes burned like red coals in the darkness. The creature looked at the four humans and smiled. Its teeth were sharp as knives. So small, it said in a voice like grinding metal. So weak, so afraid. Rick raised his plasma rifle and fired. The energy beam passed right through the creature like it was made of air. The creature laughed, a sound that made their bones ache. "Your weapons cannot harm me, little ones. I am beyond your physical world." Sam tried to run, but the creature moved faster than anything should be able to move. One swipe of its clawed hand, and Sam fell to the ground, blood pooling around his body. "Run!" Jake shouted. The three survivors ran toward the tunnel entrance. Behind them, the creature's laughter echoed off the walls. Rick turned and fired his rifle again, but the beams passed harmlessly through their attacker. They reached the mining tunnels and kept running. Jake's heart pounded as he led them through the maze of passages. Behind them, he could hear the creature following, but it seemed to be taking its time. It was playing with them. When they finally reached the elevator, Ben was gasping for breath. What was that thing? "I don't know," Jake said, pressing the button to go up. "But we just made a terrible mistake." As the elevator rose toward the surface, Jake could not shake the feeling that they had awakened something that should have stayed buried forever. In his equipment bag, his grandfather's old flashlight sat forgotten, waiting for its moment to change everything. Lisa Carter was eating lunch when the emergency alarm started blaring. She dropped her sandwich and ran to the security center. Jake Morrison burst through the doors, his face white with fear. Behind him came Ben Rodriguez and Rick Torres, both men breathing hard. "We have a problem," Jake said. "A big problem." Lisa looked at the three men. They were covered in dust and looked terrified. "Where's Sam Lee?" "Dead," Rick said quietly. "Something killed him down in the caves." Lisa grabbed her communicator. "All security teams to the control room. Now." Within minutes, 6 security guards arrived. Lisa was proud of her team. They were well trained and ready for anything. Or so she thought. Jake told them what happened in the cave. He described the crystal, the black smoke, and the creature that killed Sam. Some of the guards looked skeptical until Ben backed up every detail. "It was not human," Ben said, "not even close. And our weapons did nothing to it." Lisa studied the scanner data from Ben's equipment. The energy readings were impossible. Nothing she knew could produce that much power and still move around. "Maybe it's some kind of hologram," suggested Mike Chun, her best security officer. "Holograms don't kill people," Jake replied. "Sam is really dead." Amy Walsh came running into the room. "Lisa, I'm getting reports from all over the colony. People are seeing strange shadows moving around buildings, and the temperature is dropping everywhere." Lisa felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. Everyone stays in groups. No one goes anywhere alone. And everyone carries a weapon. She was too late. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a few seconds later, bathing the room in red light. That's when they saw it. The creature stood in the corner of the room like it had always been there. Up close, it was even more terrifying than Jake had described. Its skin was made of moving shadows, and its red eyes burned like fire. When it smiled, they could see rows of sharp teeth. "Hello, little ones," it said. "Did you miss me?" Mike Chun fired his plasma rifle immediately. The energy beam passed, right through the creature's chest. The creature looked down at where the beam had hit and laughed. "How amusing. Do it again." Mike fired 3 more times. Each shot passed through the creature like it was made of air. The creature reached out with one long arm and touched Mike's shoulder. The security officer screamed and collapsed. He was dead before he hit the floor. "Run!" Lisa shouted. The security team scattered. Lisa grabbed Jake and Ben and pulled them toward the exit. Behind them, the creature was not hurrying. It seemed to enjoy watching them panic. They made it to the main corridor before the creature appeared in front of them. It had somehow moved faster than they could run. "Where are you going?" it asked. "We were just getting to know each other." Lisa fired her sidearm. The bullets passed through the creature without effect. It reached for her, but Jake tackled her to the side. The creature's claws missed her by inches. "This way," Ben shouted, pointing to a side corridor. They ran again. This time they made it to the communications center, where Amy was trying to call for help. "I can't get through to Earth," Amy said. "Something is blocking all signals." The creature appeared in the doorway. "I cannot have you spoiling my fun by calling for help." Lisa slammed the emergency door closed. The heavy metal barrier should have stopped anything, but the creature walked right through it, like it was made of paper. "Walls cannot stop me, little one. Nothing you have can stop me." Jake threw a grenade. The explosion filled the room with fire and smoke, but when it cleared, the creature was still there, completely unharmed. "Are you finished playing?" it asked. Over the next 3 hours, the creature hunted through the colony. It killed 12. More people, always taking its time, always seeming to enjoy the fear it caused. Lisa tried everything. Plasma weapons, explosive charges, even the emergency mining laser from the equipment bay. Nothing worked. Captain Roy Hudson arrived just as the sun was setting. His ship, the USS Defiance, was the fastest military vessel in the sector. He had brought 50 Marines and enough firepower to level a city. Lisa met him at the landing pad. "Captain, thank God you're here. What exactly are we dealing with?" Hudson asked as his Marines unloaded equipment. "Something that laughs at our weapons," Lisa said. "We've tried everything." Hudson was a veteran of 12 alien conflicts. He had seen energy beings, rock creatures, and plasma monsters. He was confident his team could handle anything. "Where is this creature now?" "We don't know. It appears wherever it wants, kills someone, then vanishes." Hudson deployed his Marines around the colony. They carried the latest military weapons: quantum, disruptors, antimatter rifles, and gravitational cannons. Each weapon cost more than most people made in a lifetime. The creature appeared 2 hours later in the main dining hall. 20 Marines opened fire at once. Quantum beams, antimatter blasts, and gravity waves filled the air. The creature stood in the middle of the energy storm and laughed. "Such pretty lights," it said. "Do you have more?" When the weapons stopped firing, the creature was completely unharmed. It reached out and touched the nearest Marine. The soldier dropped dead instantly. "Impossible," Hudson muttered. "Nothing can survive antimatter bombardment." The creature looked directly at him. "I am not from your reality, little captain. Your physics do not apply to me." Dr. Rodriguez was, frantically scanning the creature with every device he had. "Captain, the readings show it exists partially outside normal spacetime. It's like it's only half here. Then how is it killing people?" Hudson demanded. "It can interact with our world when it chooses to, but our attacks pass through it because it's not fully in our dimension." The creature killed 6 more Marines before Hudson ordered a retreat. As his surviving men fell back, he made a desperate decision. "All ships, this is Hudson. Target the colony with antimatter torpedoes. Full bombardment." "Sir, there are still people alive down there," his communications officer protested. "If we don't stop this thing here, it might spread to other worlds." The torpedoes struck the colony with the force of a dozen nuclear weapons. Buildings vaporized instantly. The explosion could be seen from orbit. When the smoke cleared, Hudson expected to see nothing but a crater. Instead, the creature stood in the middle of the destruction, completely unharmed. It looked up at Hudson's ship and smiled. "My turn," it said. The creature somehow moved from. The planet surfaced to Hudson's ship in seconds. It appeared on the bridge, and Hudson's crew opened fire with everything they had. Personal weapons, ship's phasers, even the emergency plasma cannon built into the bridge walls. Nothing touched it. Within an hour, half of Hudson's crew was dead. The creature seemed to be getting stronger, feeding off the fear and death it caused. It had also grown larger, now standing 15 feet tall. The survivors huddled in the ships. Emergency shelter, but walls meant nothing to their enemy. Jake clutched his equipment bag, feeling the weight of his grandfather's old flashlight inside. He had no idea that the simple device would soon change everything. "We need to get back to the planet," Ben said. "Find some way to fight this thing." "With what?" Hudson asked bitterly. "We've used our most powerful weapons. Nothing works." "Then we find something that does work," Lisa said, "because giving up is not an option." The creature's laughter echoed through the ship's corridors as more people died. Somewhere in the darkness of space, humanity's greatest nightmare had only just begun. 3 weeks had passed since the creature first appeared. What started as a colony of 3,000 people was now down to fewer than 800 survivors. The creature seemed to enjoy taking its time, killing a few people each day while the rest lived in constant terror. Jake Morrison had not slept properly in days. He spent most of his time in the underground maintenance tunnels, helping people hide from the monster above. The creature could appear anywhere, but Jake had noticed something strange. It never came to the deepest parts of the colony, where the old emergency lighting was kept dim. "Any word from Earth?" Jake asked Amy Walsh as she worked on the communication equipment. Amy shook her head. "The creature is still blocking all long-range signals. But I managed to send out some short messages before it noticed. Help is coming, but it will take at least 2 months to get here." "We'll all be dead by then," said Rick Torres. He was one of the few miners who had survived the first encounter with the creature. Dr. Ben Rodriguez looked up from his research notes. He had been studying the creature non-stop, trying to find some weakness they could use. "I've been thinking about what it said, about existing outside our reality." "What about it?" Lisa Carter asked. She had lost 12 of her security team, and the survivors looked to her for leadership, even though their weapons were useless. "If it's not fully in our dimension, then maybe the rules are different for it. Maybe there's something about our world that it doesn't like." Captain Hudson entered the makeshift command center. His ship was still in orbit, but he had brought most of his surviving crew down to the planet. The creature seemed to prefer hunting on the surface. "My science officer thinks she's found something," Hudson said. "The creature appears to avoid certain areas of the colony." Jake nodded. "I noticed that too. It never comes down to the deep maintenance levels." "Maybe it doesn't like confined spaces," suggested Lieutenant Chris Parker, Hudson's young engineering officer. "No, that's not." Ben said slowly, "Show me exactly which areas it avoids." They spread out a map of the colony on the table. Jake marked all the places where the creature had been seen over the past 3 weeks. Lisa added the locations where people had been killed. A pattern began to emerge. "Look at this," Dr. Helen Davis said. She was Hudson's science officer, a physicist who specialized in dimensional theory. "The creature avoids these sections completely." Jake studied the map. "Those are all areas with minimal lighting. Places where we only use emergency power, or places where the old incandescent bulbs are still installed," added Chris Parker. Ben's eyes widened. "That's it. The creature doesn't like certain types of light." "But we've tried everything," Lisa protested. "Floodlights, laser lights, plasma beams. Nothing affects it." "Those are all modern lights," Helen said. "LED arrays and plasma systems. What if it's specifically afraid of older technology?" Jake thought about his grandfather's flashlight sitting in his equipment bag. The old man had always preferred simple tools that worked reliably. "You mean like incandescent bulbs?" "It's worth testing," Ben said. "Helen, do we have any incandescent lights left in the colony?" Helen checked her tablet. "The museum has some. Old equipment. And there might be some in the emergency storage areas." The creature chose that moment to make another appearance. The lights went out suddenly, and the familiar cold filled the air. Everyone grabbed their weapons, even though they knew it was useless. The creature materialized in the center of the room. It had grown even larger over the past weeks, now standing nearly 20 feet tall. Its shadow skin rippled with dark energy, and its red eyes glowed brighter than ever. "Still hiding in your little holes," it said with amusement. "Still thinking you can escape me." Hudson's Marines opened fire immediately. Quantum blasts and plasma beams filled the air, but they passed harmlessly through the creature's form. It reached out and touched one of the Marines. The soldier collapsed instantly. "I grow stronger with each death," the creature said. "Soon I will have enough power to travel to your other worlds. Imagine the fear I will spread across your entire species." Jake slowly reached into his equipment bag. His hand closed around his grandfather's flashlight. He had no idea if Helen's theory was right, but he had to try something. The creature was reaching for Lisa when Jake flicked on the flashlight. The warm, yellow light from the old incandescent bulb cut through the darkness. The moment the light touched the creature, something amazing happened. For the first time since they had encountered it, the creature showed pain, got it jerked back from the light with a shriek that sounded like metal tearing. Where the light had touched its shadow skin, there were actual burns. The creature looked at Jake with something that might have been fear. "What is that?" it demanded. Jake held the flashlight steady, keeping the beam on the creature. "Just an old light." The creature tried to move closer, but the light seemed to create a barrier it could not cross. Its form became more solid, more real. For the first time, it looked like something they could actually fight. "Impossible," the creature snarled. "Your primitive technology cannot harm me." But it was backing away from the light. Jake stepped forward, and the creature retreated further. "Everyone stay behind me," Jake said. "The light is working." Ben was frantically taking readings with his scanner. "Jake, don't let that light go out. The creature is becoming solid. It's being forced fully into our dimension." Lisa raised her plasma rifle. "If it's solid, maybe our weapons will work now." "No, wait," Helen said. "We need to understand what's happening first. Why does this specific type of light affect it when others don't?" The creature was pressed against the far wall, now trapped by the beam from Jake's flashlight. Its red eyes burned with hatred. "The light spectrum," Ben said suddenly. "Incandescent bulbs produce a full spectrum of light, including infrared. Modern lights only produce specific wavelengths." "So what?" Hudson asked. "Maybe where this creature, Comey's from, there's something that hunts it using broad-spectrum light," Helen suggested. "A natural predator that produces the same type of light as Jake's flashlight." The creature snarled. "You know nothing of my realm. Insects." "But we're learning," Jake said, keeping the light trained on it. "And right now, you're trapped." The flashlight was an old model, and Jake could see the beam starting to dim. The batteries would not last much longer. "We need more lights like this," he said urgently. "How many incandescent bulbs do we have in storage?" Chris Parker was already on his communicator. "All teams, search for any old-style light bulbs. Incandescent only. Bring them to the command center immediately." The creature sensed the flashlight weakening. "Your primitive device is failing, human. When it dies, so do you." Jake's hand was cramping from holding the flashlight steady. Sweat ran down his face as he watched the beam grow dimmer. They had perhaps 5 minutes before the batteries died completely. "Hurry," he said through gritted teeth. The creature began to move forward as the light weakened. Its form was becoming less solid again, returning to its natural state between dimensions. Jake realized with growing horror that they had only one chance to test their theory, and time was running out. Behind him, he could hear people running through the corridors, desperately searching for the old technology that might save them all. The creature's laughter grew louder as Jake's flashlight grew dimmer. Not everything would depend on what happened in the next few minutes. Jake's flashlight was dying. The warm yellow beam that had trapped the creature was now barely aglow. He could see the creature's red eyes getting brighter as it prepared to attack. "Where are those lights?" Lisa Carter shouted into her communicator. "We found 6 bulbs in the museum," came the reply from one of her security teams. "But we need power cables and fixtures to make them work." "I'm on it," said Lieutenant Chris Parker. He was already running toward the electrical supply room with 2 other engineers. Dr. Helen Davis was studying the readings on her scanner. "Jake, the creature is definitely becoming more solid when exposed to the incandescent light. The light spectrum is forcing it fully into our reality, which means our weapons should work when it's in the light," Dr. Ben Rodriguez added. The creature heard this and snarled. "Even if your pathetic bulbs work, you do not have enough power to light them all, and I will destroy them before you can use them against me." Jake's flashlight flickered and went out. Immediately, the creature began to move forward, its form becoming shadowy and untouchable again. Jake fumbled for spare batteries, but his hands were shaking too much. "Got it." Chris Parker burst into the room, carrying a hastily built lighting array. He had connected 6 incandescent bulbs to a portable power unit. The bulbs were mounted on a metal frame that could be carried like a shield. "Turn it on." Jake shouted. Chris flipped the switch, and the room filled with warm, broad-spectrum light. The creature screamed as the light hit it from multiple angles. Its shadow skin began to smoke and burn where the light touched it. "It's working," Ben said, watching his scanner readings. "The creature is completely solid now. It's trapped in our dimension." Lisa raised her plasma rifle and fired. This time, the energy beam struck the creature and burned a hole in its chest. The creature roared in pain and rage. "You will pay for this." It snarled, but it could not escape the circle of light. Hudson's Marines opened fire with everything they had: quantum disruptors, antimatter rifles, and gravitational weapons all found their target. The creature fought back, lashing out with its claws, but it could no longer phase through attacks or walls. For the first time in 3 weeks, the humans were winning, but their victory was short-lived. The portable power unit began to overheat. From running so many lights at once, sparks flew from the connections, and the lights started to flicker. "The power unit is failing," Chris shouted. "I built it too fast. It can't handle the load." The creature sensed the lights weakening and began to laugh. "Your primitive technology betrays you, as I knew it would." Jake grabbed a wrench and started working on the power connections, but he was not an electrical engineer. Every time he touched a wire, sparks flew and the lights flickered more. "I need more time," Chris said, pulling out spare parts from his toolkit. "We don't have more time," Helen said, watching the creature start to become translucent again as the lights dimmed. That's when Amy Walsh ran into the room. "I found something in the old communications equipment. A box of incandescent bulbs from the emergency broadcasting system." "How many?" Ben asked. 24 bulbs. But they're designed for low power. We might be able to keep them running longer." The creature was already starting to move as the main lighting array failed. Jake's grandfather's flashlight was completely dead, and Chris's improvised lights were sparking dangerously. "Everyone fall back to the main assembly hall," Lisa ordered. "We need a bigger space to set up our lights." They ran through the corridors, while the creature pursued them. Without the lights to keep it solid, it had returned to its shadowy form. It moved through walls and appeared ahead of them, blocking their path. Jake threw his dead flashlight at the creature. It passed harmlessly through, but the distraction allowed the group to reach a side corridor. "This way," Hudson shouted, leading them toward the assembly hall. The main assembly hall was the largest room in the colony. It had been used for meetings and celebrations before the creature arrived. Now it would serve as humanity's last stand. Chris and Helen worked frantically to set up a proper lighting system. They used the colony's main power grid instead of portable units. Amy and Ben helped string cables across the ceiling, while Lisa's security team watched for the creature. "How long do we need?" Lisa asked. 20 minutes to do it right," Chris replied. 5 minutes to do it fast and hope it works." "Do it fast," Jake said. "That thing won't give us 20 minutes." The creature appeared in the doorway just as they finished connecting the first set of lights. Its red eyes surveyed the room, and it seemed to understand what they were planning. "Clever little insects," it said, "but you cannot hide in the light forever. Eventually, your power will fail, and I will be waiting." "Maybe," Jake said, flipping the switch for the first light array. "But right now, you're trapped." The incandescent bulbs blazed to life, filling one corner of the room with warm light. The creature jerked back as the light touched it, its form becoming solid and vulnerable. Hudson's Marines immediately opened fire. Their weapons struck home, burning holes in the creature's shadowy flesh. But the creature was learning. It stayed at the edge of the light, just beyond the reach of their most powerful weapons. "We need more coverage," Helen said. "One array isn't enough." Chris was already working on the second set of lights. "Give me 2 more minutes." The creature raised one long arm and pointed at the power cables running along the ceiling. Dark energy shot from its fingers, severing the cables. The first light array went out. "It's cutting our power lines," Amy shouted. Jake realized they had a serious problem. The creature could destroy their electrical system faster than they could repair it. They needed a different approach. "What if we surround it?" he suggested. "Use multiple small arrays instead of one big one." "That might work," Helen said. "But we'll need someone to get close enough to place the lights around it." Everyone looked at Jake. He was the one who had first discovered the creature's weakness. He was also the most experienced at moving through dangerous areas. "I'll do it," he said. Lisa shook her head. "Too dangerous. If one of those lights fails while you're placing them, then we all die anyway," Jake replied. "This is our only chance." He picked up a portable light array that Chris had quickly assembled. It was smaller than the first one, with only 4 bulbs, but it should work low enough to get him close to the creature. The creature watched him approach with amusement. "Do you really think your simple lights can defeat me, little human?" "Let's find out," Jake said, and turned on the lights. The creature screamed as the light hit it, but this time it was ready. Instead of retreating, it lunged forward, accepting the burning pain to reach Jake with its claws. Jake dove to the side, but he knew he could not dodge forever. The creature was faster and stronger, even when solid. Their plan was working, but it might not be enough to save them. Behind him, he could hear Chris and Helen frantically working to set up more lights. Everything depended on whether they could finish their work before the creature killed them all. Jake rolled across the floor as the creature's claws slashed through the air where his head had been. The portable light array in his hands flickered, but stayed on, keeping the creature solid and vulnerable. Behind him, he could hear the frantic sounds of Chris Parker and Dr. Helen Davis working to complete their lighting grid. How much longer? Jake shouted, dodging another attack. 30 seconds. Chris replied, sweat dripping as he connected the final power cables. The creature roared in frustration. Every time it tried to phase through the walls to escape, the light from Jake's array forced it back into solid form. But Jake was getting tired, and the creature seemed to have endless energy. "Your little lights only delay the inevitable." The creature snarled, slashing with both clawed hands. Jake stumbled backward, holding the light array like a shield. One of the bulbs shattered when the creature's claw struck the metal frame, but the other 3 kept burning. "Now!" Helen shouted. Chris flipped the main switch, and the assembly hall exploded with warm yellow light. 24 incandescent bulbs blazed to life, mounted on 6 arrays positioned around the room. The creature was caught in the center, surrounded by overlapping circles of light. The effect was immediate and devastating. The creature's shadow skin began to burn and smoke wherever the light touched it. It tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Every direction led into more light. "Impossible," it screamed. "I am beyond your physical realm." "Not anymore," Dr. Ben Rodriguez said, watching his scanner readings with amazement. "The broad-spectrum light is locking you completely into our dimension." Captain Hudson's Marines surrounded the creature and opened fire. This time, every shot hit home. Plasma beams burned through its flesh, quantum disruptors tore holes in its body, and gravitational weapons crushed parts of its form. But the creature was far from finished. Even trapped and wounded, it was incredibly dangerous. It lashed out, with its claws striking down 2 Marines before they could dodge. Its red eyes blazed with hatred as it focused on Jake. "You did this, little human. You will be the first to die." The creature charged straight at Jake, ignoring the burning pain from the lights. Jake raised his damaged light array, but with only 3 bulbs left, it was not enough to stop the monster's charge. Lisa Carter appeared beside Jake, carrying another light array. Together, their combined beams struck the creature full force. It stumbled and fell to one knee, its form becoming more solid than ever before. "All weapons, concentrate fire," Hudson commanded. The remaining Marines unleashed everything they had. Energy beams, projectile weapons, and explosive charges all found their target. The creature's roars of pain echoed through the hall. Amy Walsh was working frantically at her communication station. "I'm getting signals through. The creature's power is weakening." Dr. Rodriguez was studying his readings with growing excitement. "I think I understand what's happening. The creature comes from a realm of absolute darkness and cold light. The warm, broad-spectrum light from incandescent bulbs mimics something from its home dimension. A predator, Helen added. Something that hunts these creatures using bioluminescent organs that produce the same light spectrum as tungsten filaments. The creature heard this, and its red eyes went wide with what might have been recognition or fear. The light hunters, it whispered. But they cannot reach this realm. Maybe not, Jake said, stepping closer with his light array. But we can bring their light to you. The creature tried one last desperate attack. It gathered all its remaining energy and launched itself at the nearest light array, hoping to destroy enough bulbs to create an escape route. Chris Parker was ready for this. He had hidden backup arrays around the room, and when the creature destroyed the first set of lights, he immediately activated the replacements. There was no gap in the light coverage. Trapped and burning, the creature fell to the floor. Its shadow skin was dissolving under the constant exposure to incandescent light. For the first time since they had encountered it, the monster looked vulnerable and small. "Please," it said, its voice weak and crackling. "Turn off the lights. I will return to my realm and never come back." Jake looked at the creature that had killed so many of his friends. Sam Lee, Mike Chun, and dozens of others had died because of this monster. He felt no pity. "I don't think so," he said. Hudson's Marines fired one final volley. The concentrated energy beams struck the creature's weakened form and tore it apart. With a final shriek that sounded like breaking glass, the monster dissolved into black smoke and vanished. The lights continued to burn, but there was nothing left to illuminate except empty air. "Is it dead?" Amy asked quietly. Ben checked his scanner readings. No energy signatures. No dimensional distortions. "I think it's really gone." A cheer went up from the survivors. They had done the impossible. They had defeated an enemy that laughed at their most advanced weapons by using technology their grandparents would have recognized. Jake sat down heavily, still holding his grandfather's broken flashlight. The old man had always said that simple tools were the most reliable. He had been more right than he could have ever imagined. "How did you know?" Helen asked. "How did you know to try the incandescent light?" Jake smiled tiredly. "I didn't. I just got lucky. My grandfather always told me to keep simple tools around because you never know when they might save your life." Captain Hudson was already organizing rescue efforts for the other colonies that had gone silent in recent weeks. "If there are more of these creatures out there, we'll be ready for them now." Amy was sending reports to Earth, describing their discovery. "Command wants to know if we can mass-produce incandescent lighting systems." "Already working on it," Chris said. "Simple technology, easy to manufacture. Every human ship and colony should have them within 6 months." 6 months later, Jake Morrison stood in the New Haven Memorial Garden, looking at the names of those who had died during the creature's attack. In his hand, he held a new flashlight, not an LED model, but a simple incandescent bulb version. Just like his grandfather's. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their advanced technology, but their ability to find simple solutions to complex problems. When other species encountered void-born creatures, they called for human assistance. The creatures that had once terrorized entire star systems now fled at the first sight of a human ship. The phrase human flashlight had become galactic slang for an unexpectedly simple solution to a seemingly impossible problem. And in the deepest parts of space, where darkness had once ruled supreme, the warm glow of incandescent bulbs now kept the shadows at bay. Jake smiled as he remembered his grandfather's words. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. The old man had been right about more than just flashlights. He had been right about the value of remembering where you came from and never forgetting the simple tools that had carried humanity this far. As Jake walked back toward the rebuilt colony, His flashlight beam cut through the gathering dusk. Somewhere in the darkness between dimensions, ancient predators stirred at the familiar light, and the creatures that had once laughed at humanity's weapons now knew to fear the simple glow of a tungsten filament. The universe was a little brighter, and humanity had learned once again that sometimes the most powerful weapon was also the simplest one.